Oh dear, do we really need another gaming YouTuber? Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Only Nerdy Gaming, a place by a gamer, for gamers, and all things nerdy. I'm SoulSword, and I am so excited to be here doing this. Consider me a virtual safari guide as we traverse through all the video game news, comic book movie happenings, and other nerdy shenanigans I can find to fill that small space that maybe other channels haven't quite filled yet. That nerdy buddy that you love to talk to after school when nobody's looking, but don't want to be seen with. I believe it's only fitting that I actually do an introduction where you learn a little bit about me, your humble guide. My passion for all things nerdy and gaming really didn't kick in until junior high. Now, I don't want to give away my age, but I was in junior high in the mid-90s. That's right, the 90s. That era when our favorite comic book heroes graced the TV screen with little to no violence on screen, and video game movies were finally starting to see the light of day, even though there was kind of a mixed bag of quality there. I was nerding out hard during this time. I would participate in Marvel trading card trading, X-Men action figure swapping, video game cartridge sharing, and arguing with friends over which was better, Star Trek or Star Wars. I won't be getting into this debate here. Wink wink. My favorite video game during this time was Final Fantasy VI, or if you lived in the United States like me, it was Final Fantasy III. Very confusing later on when Final Fantasy VII was released. Speaking of Final Fantasy VII, that was the game that turned me into the hardcore gamer that I am today. Allow me to explain. Final Fantasy VII was released on September 7th, 1997. I was in high school at this point. This game was all over the place. It was being advertised in video game magazines like EGM, GamePro, Game Informer, official US PlayStation magazine, you name it, it was there. If you were like me and you got bored in the grocery store when your parents were shopping, you went to the magazine section and thumbed through the latest video game magazines until they eventually started wrapping them up in shrink wrap. That was really irritating. Anyways, Final Fantasy VII was everywhere. I wanted this game so bad, but I grew up in a humble household that didn't have buttloads of money, so I had to wait for a big holiday. Luckily, it was only 3 months between the launch of Final Fantasy VII in the US and Christmas. I planted seeds everywhere in my mother's subconscious during this time. I would bring this game up whenever I could. Luckily, my mom's favorite shopping day of the year was Black Friday, and it was coming up pretty quick. I knew exactly what to do to secure this must-have game of a lifetime. I woke up at 4 a.m. with my mom, not caring how early it was. I got dressed and hopped in the car, drove to the local superstore. You know, those stores that sell lumber, furniture, groceries, and electronics all in one place. Yeah. We did our holiday shopping. We shopped and shopped and shopped. It felt like an eternity. When she told me to take the bags from the checkout line to the car, and that she would meet me there, I knew exactly where she was going. Little did she know that I had already stopped by the electronics department and saw that Final Fantasy VII was on sale for $20 off. Score. Savings. And it was a Christmas present. I knew exactly what she was getting. It was a sweet deal. So I loaded up all the bags into the car and I sat waiting patiently, filled with delight, knowing that eventually I would have that game that I was so desiring. When she arrived back at the car, I knew I couldn't just ask her, "So did you get that game I wanted?" So I slightly made the statement. Well, if you're doing any holiday shopping for me, I noticed that Final Fantasy VII was $20 off in the electronics department today. I remember my mother as she was putting the key in the car's ignition. She just kind of stopped and froze. She looked over to me and said, "I'll be right back." I drew a huge sigh of relief as she stepped out of the car, heading back into the store. I knew that she must have forgotten, and if I wouldn't have said anything, she would have forgotten the gift for me for Christmas. She came back with the stereotypical small electronics bag that fit the perfect square size of a multi-disc jewel case. I was content and very excited. Now, a little disclaimer here for what I'm about to tell you. I was not a bad kid growing up, but you may find yourself thinking after I tell you this, oh my goodness, if this was my kid, I would have hung him by his ears. So we get home, and I bring all the bags to my house. My mom asked me to take the bags into her room and put them on her bed. She's got the small little bag from the electronics department in her purse. I stepped out of the room and went and found something to keep me busy once I put the bags on the bed like she had asked. But I knew exactly what my mother was doing. You see, she was a very well-organized lady. There were 5 people in my immediate family, so there were 5 boxes in her large walk-in closet high above where she hung her clothes. Each box was labeled based on the family member. I knew that all the presents that she got were going to be sorted in those boxes. This was Thanksgiving break, and I knew the house was going to be empty tomorrow. which was Saturday. I had a game plan. I knew how I was going to play Final Fantasy VII before Christmas. I just couldn't wait. I couldn't. Not only was my mother organized and intuitive as to what I wanted for Christmas, but she was also very crafty. Crafty as in she made arts and crafts in her free time. She worked with clay a lot. Small little clay jewelry pieces, to be exact. So, in order to cut the little pieces out, she had a fancy X-Acto knife set. So my plan was perfect. After she left for work in the morning, I went into her bedroom, crawled up on the stepladder, and pulled down the Christmas box with my name on it. I didn't care what was inside other than the one small electronics bag. I pulled the bag down and, holding it firmly in my hands, stepped down and just stared at the bag which held the item I so coveted inside. I didn't open it right away. I watched it. I just looked at it, stared at it, at the dining room table where I was going to enact my master plan. So I placed the electronics bag on the dining room table and grabbed my mother's X-Acto knife set. I pulled out what I could only imagine was what I thought was the perfect knife for the job. So my heart was racing really fast as I pulled the jewelry case out of the electronics bag. And there it was, right in front of me. Final Fantasy VII shrink wrap in all its glory, with the glossy PlayStation logo sticker across the side. I took the X-Acto knife and surgically cut into the plastic wrap, keeping it in place and pushing the jewel case out of the plastic wrap and freeing it from its entrapment. I then slid a clean line through the security sticker, holding the case together. I forgot to mention that I had also grabbed very clear packing tape in order to finish the reseal job that was to come. So I opened up the jewel case and pulled out disc 1. That's right, back then they had multiple discs for these large games. Made it a little more inconvenient for my plan, but I just needed disc 1. So I gently placed it to the side, and then just as I carefully took everything apart, I put everything back in the way it was. I closed the security sticker back over the top, and I slid the jewel case into the shrink wrap. I used a very thin piece of clear packing tape to hold the shrink wrap in place, and then placed the game back into the electronics bag, and I took the bag back to the holiday box that had my name on it, and put it back in the closet. I made sure I put the tape back where it was, the X-Acto knife set back where it was supposed to go, so that there was no trace of any tampering whatsoever. So I then went back to the dining room table and held that Final Fantasy VII disc in my hand. I get it. I didn't have to wait until Christmas. I was so happy. I took the game to my room, put it in my PlayStation, and what happened next must have been a blur. Thanksgiving break had come and gone, and now the long wait to Christmas break came and went. I was playing Final Fantasy VII religiously, ensuring that if my mom ever came in, there wasn't any gameplay going on, so she couldn't possibly realize what I was doing. By the time Christmas break came, I had finished Disc 1, and a few days before Christmas, I had finished Disc 2. I was so crafty at swapping the discs when nobody was home, getting them in and out quietly, carefully, and without disturbing anything. But I was so excited for Christmas, so I didn't have to worry about being sneaky anymore. I could just enjoy Final Fantasy VII in peace, without fear of getting caught, well, being sneaky. The hardest part of the whole thing was faking the excitement of getting the game that I wanted the most for that year, so my mom wouldn't realize that I'd been playing the game the whole time. I'm still shocked that she was not able to wrap the game and not find out that I had already opened the product. As crafty as I thought I was, I look back wondering how the repacking skill of a 16-year-old teen boy made it past my mom's eye for detail. So, my mom passed away 10 years ago, and one of my biggest regrets is that I never had a chance to jokingly tell her about what happened and share a few laughs about it. But I'm sure she probably would have just looked at me and gone, "Really?" But I knew then, as I know now, that only a hardcore gamer would have done something like that. What transpired over that Thanksgiving and Christmas break turned me into the gaming enthusiast that I am today. But I really can't warrant sneaking into your parents' closet to find out what you got for Christmas, because, I'm not going to lie, as great as playing Final Fantasy VII early was, that joy and excitement of looking forward to something, or just getting a surprise, was kind of gone. So, don't do it. Just wait for the surprise, because if you ruin it or spoil it for yourself, you gotta wait a whole nother year for something super exciting like that again, so take that with a grain of salt. Well, that's all the time I've got for today. I hope that gave you some insight into who I am and what I love to do. I'm Soul Sword, and until next time, take care and stay nerdy.